style you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with a clever song. Yo, shout the host named Thomas, cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John, you know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles which cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this cause the people love me. Shouts out to PHP the Ugly. It's called ugly cause it's not professional, but I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting, I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all know we fill them up with anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I can dig it. My words spray tight. They getting together on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call me the new dude. I spew true lyrics while y'all broadcast on YouTube. So let's get it. You know my lyrics are major. All up in the comments, they got plenty of haters, but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly. We ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out to y'all. Peace.
He said it. Let's go. Let's get this thing started.
Let's go.
Get it started.
Go. Oh, I guess that's my cue. That's my cue. Okay. Good Thursday afternoon. You're listening to episode 219. It is afternoon, evening, huh? Good Thursday evening. Good evening.
It's
night.
It's 9 o'clock at night.
Well,
at least where we're at.
I can't say good night.
You
Where
can say
we're at,
good
we're like the entire. Okay. It's
Good night,
episode
everybody. We're done.
219 of PHPUgly. I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson, and the jerk with me is John Congdon.
Why am I the jerk this time? I thought it was always Thomas.
Hi,
Yeah, Thomas, right?
I'm not a jerk.
Wait, did we start actually recording? Because I don't think I got into
Yeah, you
the
did.
other thing, did I?
Zencaster?
Oh,
Yeah, you're in there, brother.
I'm good. Okay.
Good God. I love that song. It's still playing in my head. How's everybody doing? How was everybody's week? We're going to talk PHP. I'm pretty damn excited about some things that have come to my attention recently. And yeah, let's talk. Let's talk PHP.
Let's do it.
How's
All right,
everybody work? Yeah, it's good.
I'll be that way.
Let's start with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a great week and a bad week all at the same time. Because I love testing. I say it all the time. The more I get into it, the more I love it. And recently we started doing some more event sourcing type work. I gave a talk on event sourcing last year and I'm still lost and it's driving me nuts.
Really? You're still...
Yeah.
Because you seem like at one point you had a pretty good handle on it.
And I still have a handle on it. It's more of... There's no, like, go do it this way. There's, like, it's a paradigm shift in your thinking, and we're not doing it, like, pure event sourcing code or event sourcing style. It's more of kind of crowbarred in because we want to use it, and there are benefits to it. So I'm basically taking a piece of the system that already exists, and I'm trying to event source it. I'm getting echo from somewhere, just saying. So I'm using event sourcing and getting a little bit lost as I'm coding it.
Why do you say what? So you say paradigm shift, but I always saw event sourcing as just an additional layer of whatever you're using.
So if you're going to do it properly, you should be doing DDD, which we're not doing. And like I said, it's more crowbarring it into an existing application versus building it from the ground up. Mm-hmm. So if this was a completely new module or feature of the code, that's one thing, but it's like this feature already exists. So I'm trying to take that, put event sourcing in front of it so that when we project from the event store, everything else continues to work. So it's basically just removing the inserts and updates and then getting event sourcing in there that will do those pieces, do the CQ part of it, and then leaving the model that's there as a read-only model.
Should we? I always forget this piece, and I'm open to input from you guys. But when we talk about things like this, we take for granted that we've had this conversation over and over again, especially on the podcast. Should we take a moment and like explain what event sourcing is to people who might be tuning in? Or
No, they don't. If they don't know, no, of course.
I'm always kind of torn on that idea, you know?
No, we should.
Give us the 10-second version.
So, can it be 30?
You're down to 6 seconds.
Elevator pitch.
So, event sourcing in a nutshell is everything becomes an event. So you're not coding. You shouldn't be thinking about your data model because that can change drastically over time. Event sourcing is some event happened. When it comes to user registration, you have a user has registered. That is an event that contains some data. Then you have another event, user has changed password, contains other data. User has updated email address. So as you get these like blocks of events for what they call an aggregate root, which in a user registration case is a user, you apply those events. Now you have a new user model.
Mm-hmm. And again, if you're not familiar with this, is that going to make it on the actual stream?
It's on the stream, but it's it doesn't make it to the podcast.
So if you're curious why you would do something like event sourcing, this is a great model. First off, especially if you don't always know what sort of data you need or what sort of metrics you need for the audience you're trying to provide a service for. So what this does is it allows you to take any point in time and kind of restructure everything that happened at that point in time. So
beyond that, there's so much more, but good.
Yeah, where you might look at a row in a database and you see all the data for that row there, that data might have changed several times over the months, and how it changed from one thing to another thing and why it changed like that. This is all information, especially as your application grows and as your business grows. This is, first thing, very valuable information to have. But second, it becomes relevant information. It's like, okay, well, how did data get in this state? And you can actually look at it and find out how data got into a certain state. So event sourcing is an extremely, extremely powerful tool. I mean, the extreme case that they show is that you can literally rebuild your database from event sourcing. So if you have your events in another location, you can actually rebuild all the data in your database, assuming everything's been event sourced, through running through these. I think they're called projecting, right?
Projections. Yeah, you take your events. Yeah. You take your events. You run them through a projector, which basically plays those events again and does something with them. So in a projection, like what we're doing is your insert or your update is an event, and then you just write that to your MySQL. And because we want to keep the current model, we're just going to project as if nothing has changed. But the beautiful part, the nice part, boy, I cannot speak tonight. You can replay these events, maybe not to MySQL, but you replay them to Elasticsearch for something completely different. When I gave the talk last year, one of the examples was an e-commerce site was doing this, not with the intention of getting this information out, but when you added an item to your cart, it was an event. When you removed an item from a cart, that was another event. So add item A, remove item A. You now have your cart is empty, but they still have both of those events. So as somebody shopping, it might be add item A, B, C, remove B. checkout for items A and C. Years later, they started wondering, what happens when somebody removes an item? What does that do to my analytics? Are they more likely to buy that again in the future? How long does it take somebody that's removed an item to buy it again? If they removed item B, did they add item C to get it? So when you start looking through all of that data again, you can say, oh, I have so much more information than I thought I had. So it's a way of keeping everything that happens and then being able to look at it different ways in the future.
And so kind of coming back around to the point you're making, though, it's a little on the challenging side to kind of get your head around that and to have that in your coding flow.
I'm sorry, say that again. I was distracted.
I'm sorry, no problem.
It's Thomas's fault.
I heard something ding. I wasn't sure what it was. I wasn't going to pay attention, but I said just kind of bringing it back to the challenge you have now is it's not as easy as just capturing an event and storing an event somewhere. There's a whole workflow that is involved with that, and it gets a little challenging to understand how to fit that stuff in, especially when you're talking about legacy code, because you don't have that fresh starting point. You've got to say, okay,
right,
on this date, this is what my data looks like.
Yes and no. So what we're not doing is going and retrofitting previous data in. The goal is to get the event sourcing piece in place now and start collecting the events and not necessarily try to get all the previous data into a point. And that's another reason for not changing the existing data structure. This is more as we move into the future, there's going to be additional features of the system, and then trying to say, okay, if something happens over here or something happens over here, we're going to unify this data and give it a unified report for people to look at.
We're getting harassed for being too serious in chat, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
Buttery almost turned us off. He was like, wait a minute.
I don't blame him.
Wrong show.
These guys are actually talking PHP. This is weird.
Yeah, you've got to get your head around that, because we need somebody who has their head around it. I think it's very important.
Gishu brings up a good point. Event sourcing is heavily used in accounting. I mean, it is a checkbook registry. It is everything that happens in your bank account is an event.
It's a ledger.
Yeah. So it is. It is fun. I'm happy to be working on something new, and I'm doing it TDD. So combining testing and event sourcing, and then just before I finished my day going out to my kids, all of a sudden one of my tests was passing. I'm on the verge of this working the way I want it to work, and I don't want to stop, but I have to. And then I had to do this show, so I had to stop again.
Kids get in the way of everything.
I tell you. How about you, Thomas? How was your week?
Well, I'm going to go after you, actually, because my week involved reading something that's going to go deep into the thing we worked on earlier. So I figured I'd leave it to you to go next, and then we could jump right into our fun new tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited about that. So yeah, I'm at this weird stage. I told you last week that I was going to do some refactoring to Argus, which I actually ended up starting on Tuesday or Wednesday. I didn't have time over the weekend to do it like I had hoped. Oh, that reminds me, I need to look at that code base for eVault too. Damn, I start building up things I want to do, and I don't have time to get to half of them. Argus is in a state right now where, I think we got like 1-2 clients.
What's Argus?
Argus.to, Thomas? Are you not familiar with Argus.to?
I don't think I've heard of it.
Number one easiest cron monitoring service out there. Yeah,
sounds useful. Is there a free trial?
All the 45 days for free. All
Every
the kids
time
are
I hear
talking about
that.
it.
Every time I hear. 45
You know what that
days.
means, Thomas? That means you could have a job that runs once a month, and it would be captured on Argus. You could have that job on Argus. It's
Well, I have to install something on the
so
server to do this, though, right?
absolutely not.
What?
That's the great thing about Argus. No,
Oh my God.
there's nothing to install. There's nothing to install. We don't ask for any information. It's just a simple endpoint that you have to hit. Argus.to is the easiest cron monitoring service.
Wow!
But wait, there's more.
Is there? What's
No,
more?
no, that's it. That's the whole thing.
Whoops.
Oh man.
I'm trying to reel in the sponsors here, so show them how good we can do it.
Yeah, I don't know if that helped or not. I feel like it didn't. But we've got we were dog fooding it for a while. We opened it up to the public recently, and we had a couple people sign up. And so we're not making anything off of it. I mean, it's costing us more in servers now than what we're making. But there's like so much I want to do. Like I want to focus on it for like the next week or two. Like I started refactoring these forums. I'm like, oh, this is so much better. This is so much better. And as I shared with you last week, I'm doing it in Livewire. And for the exact same reason, every time I go in there, I'm refactoring this form and I'm looking at it, and the old data is still showing up, the old data from Vue. I'm like, how the hell is it still getting this? Like, where is this fucking defined? I can't get it to stop showing me this one piece of data that I don't want it to show anymore. But I have my Livewire piece working, which is awesome. So I'm like so antsy where like this is all I want to do for like a week or two. Just give me like 2 weeks of just deep diving this and let me work on this. So I'm fighting that temptation. Because I do, with COVID and everything, we've all had to kind of carry our weight. I can't bum around anymore like I used to do, and I have to do some client work and actually get money for the company. So that sucks. But yeah, I'm loving Livewire. I know I say it every week. I know you guys are tired of hearing it, but the more I work with Livewire, it's like, why are we just not always using this? This is so stupid that we're not using this everywhere. Like, I'm not saying never to use JavaScript. Matter of fact, that client I'm talking about has me doing some JavaScript work for them. It's this weird situation where they have this external service that they can actually create these templates through, and they want to pull in stuff from a back end. So I'm like doing it in the templates through JavaScript using Alpine, which is actually a very good marriage to Livewire. Actually created by the same guy, Alpine JS and Livewire. So I'm actually doing a good amount of JavaScript now, which I'm not a fan of. I've made it very clear. I'm not a big JavaScript person, but I'm getting my head around it more and more. Now, Alpine JS has got to be, it's got to be like JavaScript for dummies, because it just really makes sense on how to do things. But Livewire is just like, it's just blowing me away. Every time I go to do something, I'm like, this is so perfect. So I'm going to get these forms refactored and show
me why. Yeah, why you like that overview.
Yep, I would definitely do that. Yeah.
Or how Alpine compares to Vue and why you would choose that. Because I'm so used to Vue, not that I code in Vue, but seeing other people do it and knowing what and how Vue kind of works. Mm-hmm. It's like, why would you not just use that?
So the good thing about running a company with you, John, is that we can, code, like you can review my code. So I'm queuing this one up as a pull request to sit there and go through with you, so I can show you the befores and afters and get your opinion on it. I mean, it doesn't really matter what your opinion is. We're doing it.
Let's be real here.
but I would like to see what you think about it and your feelings on it. Because I can definitely see, like we have other clients we're not using Livewire on. I mean, we're not using Livewire on any clients except for the ones I work on. And I can definitely see, like, immediately thinking, oh, yeah, we need to start using this more because this actually, answers more questions than it creates. No, it fixes more things than it breaks. What? No, it's good. It's a good thing. So I'm loving Livewire, still loving Livewire, and I'm loving coding. And I'm loving fucking coding a little bit more. And I think you have Thomas to thank for this, but I just tweeted out for the show, I'm pretty sure now that JetBrains, PHPStorm, is my everyday driver now. I was doing about a 50-50 thing with JetBrains and with Vim, because I was kind of coming back to Vim, liking Vim a lot, and then I would bounce back over to PHPStorm, depending on what I was doing, especially if I was trying to do things with new formats and looking for that little extra help from PHPStorm. But I think as of today, I've kind of gone over the hump here, and I think I'm going to stick, like, if I do anything with PHP, I'm going to stick with PHPStorm. And one of the things
I'm curious as to why. What was
So-
said that
I will let Thomas share that. But one of the things I did because of Thomas, so Thomas shared something, and we're going to get to that here in a second. But I'm looking at PHPStorm. I'm like, okay, why don't I use this every day? What is it about this that I'm not liking? And it was one of the things that you complained about a lot, where my, well, you still complain about it. You complain about it in my Vim, but I use relative line numbering.
Oh, God, I hate it.
I love
Hate it
I don't.
some.
I cannot understand how you guys can hate this. It's so perfect. I don't understand why you hate it, but whatever. You guys are idiots. I've come to embrace that.
I can see relative line numbering for you. If I was using it personally, which I'm not, because when I want to go up to a specific line, I can just search for text that I see on that line. I don't need to say, oh, look, that's 10 lines relative up. I can go 10 up and know where I'm at. It's more of a pain in the ass when you start pair programming with somebody and you're like, go to line 10. Oh wait, which 10? Versus
Why wouldn't you say go 10 up or 10 down if you see the person's using relative numbers? You see a 10 there.
that works until the fucker that's driving is constantly moving the cursor all over the place and the numbers
Not that
keep
we know
changing.
anyone who does that.
It's like, no, go there. Nope, go stop. I can't tell you a number because they keep changing on me.
So anyways, in my Vim, I would have the line number I'm on and then the relative line numbers around it. So that was always good because, like, if I'm talking to John, I can say, yeah, go to line 415. Now, in Vim, as in PHPStorm, I always had that in the bottom footer. I don't know what you call that bottom part of the info bar at the bottom of your
Footer?
thing. So it would always tell you what line you're on, but I always forgot what number that was. So I had that in PHPStorm and I had it in Vim. In Vim, I didn't worry about it because I could see whatever line my cursor was on showed me the real number. And I don't know why I didn't think about it, but so in PHPStorm, I didn't have that. I just had relative numbers. It used to drive me crazy because I'd have to go down and say, okay, what line number is this again? Look at the bottom of my screen. All right, I'm on line 415, whatever. So I'm looking at that this afternoon. I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, how do I do this in Vim? And I pull up my well, it's not a vimrc file anymore because I'm using NeoVim, but same thing, the vimrc file. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I have these two settings here that seem to offset each other, but they don't. One is set relative number and the next is set number. I'm like, So I put that in my PHPStorm because PHPStorm, where I have the Vim bindings, actually has its own version of a vimrc file, which is called an idea
vimrc.
Is it idea vimrc? Yeah, idea vimrc. So I put those two settings in there. Bada bing, bada boom. I mean, my PHPStorm, there was that, and there were a couple other little tweaks I made, but my PHPStorm now looks and behaves very close to what my
barely
how my
anyone
behaves.
can
Very
use his PHPStorm now, which is perfect.
Then this afternoon, I was introduced to a
Well,
new plugin.
so I'm going to get to that. I was going over JetBrains' PHP annotated blog. Every month they just sort of give a quick breakdown of the PHP stuff that's changed and, you know, what you should keep your eyes on. PHP 8, 7.4, and 7.3 have received security updates, things like that. The PHP documentation, which was on SVN up until last month, is now managed through Git, which is like, wow. And then they had an announcement that PHPStorm 2020.3 was released. It added support for PHP 8, PHP Stand, Psalm, Xdebug 3, pair programming, and Tailwind CSS. And that caught my attention. I thought, wait a second, pair programming, that's just like a little note in your what we've added functionality. So I looked into it.
As John immediately starts
Click, 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 click.
What's he going to tell us?
No, I'm curious.
PHPStorm has added a new plugin. Well, they have a new software package called Code With Me, which has a plugin for PHPStorm that when you click on it, generates a link that you send to your pair programming partner, and they get an IDE screen that mimics yours. You can either follow along with what they're doing, or you can browse the code base on your own completely. It has a read-only mode. It has a read-write mode. It has a video conferencing functionality, so everyone can turn on their mics and webcams and communicate while they're scrolling through the code together. And it's called Code With Me.
It's in the plugin.
So it's supported in 2020.3, but it's a plugin that you have to install for PHPStorm or for any of their IntelliJ products. And it's an official thing from JetBrains, the obscure Ukrainian company we've all learned to know. And Eric and I tried it out this afternoon, and it was awesome.
So it's in the Trello board if you want to click on that there, John.
No, I don't, because I'm trying to figure something
It
out.
worked flawlessly between Eric and I. I just set him...
I'm on 2020.3, and I'm not seeing it.
You have to add the
my,
plugin.
Plugins. I'm in the plugins directory trying to find
Code With Me.
it. So confused.
John, try typing in code and then a space and with, and see if anything comes up.
Oh, yeah, I guess you knew that. What? It did, and then it went away. Damn it. All right. I'm installing it now.
It worked fantastically well. Eric had a small issue with it dropping his IDE theme, but I did not have the same issue.
So both Thomas and I are on Linux machines, which I'm being told now is like saying you use Vim or saying you're a vegan. People like say it too frequently, but I don't know how else to say it. It's important. It's an important point here. So on Thomas's machine, it worked flawlessly. Like he didn't lose his theme. Everything looked normal. I don't know if you confirm like all your plugins were still there. But on my machine, I was visibly in a different IDE. So I had my JetBrains IDE or PHPStorm open, and then there was this. I think what was it called, Thomas, like a JetBrains client.
Yeah,
or
something along those lines.
So you were pairing with him. He was basically the driver.
In that scenario,
is that why?
We don't know why that error occurred.
It's not an error. It's not an error.
Yeah, he just had an unskinned IDE. But I mean, the idea of driver and whatever, really, once you're connected, goes away. You're both in the same IDE at the same time. I can see his cursor position and his changes, and he can see mine.
So the question was, and I had full control over this other instance of PHP Storm. It was basically a basic a basic implementation of PHP Storm, and I had plugins there. So I'm curious what I hadn't done yet, and I can't figure out how to launch it without being in a shared session. So I might need to do that again with you, Thomas or John, if you want to check it out. But I have plugins there, and one of the plugins I use is the sync plugin that I have through JetBrains that syncs my plugins with all the instances I have of PHP Storm. So I think my assumption is all I have to do is enable that, get all my plugins synced up to this other client, and everything will be fine. My biggest question is, again, back to the Vim piece. Will my Vim bindings still work? Because that was the big thing if you recall, we had this pair programming discussion with VS Code about a year ago, or maybe longer. And the very cool thing about that is it worked in a very similar way, but that any plugins you had on your end, everything was still accessible to you. So like for me, my Vim bindings were still accessible, even though I was pair programming with somebody who doesn't have Vim bindings. It didn't impact me at all. So that's my biggest question here, is whether or not I still have that. Not that it's it means I won't use it. It just means I have to remember that when somebody's sharing with me, I have to remember, stop hitting JK because it's driving the person on the other end crazy. Remember to kind of move around.
Why do you keep breaking my code? So did you say this already? It was actually written. It's a plugin from JetBrains. It's not a third-party plugin, so there's no cost to it.
It's free from JetBrains. There's no cost, and you can actually, if you need to for any reason, set up a private server to host this interchange. Right now, it's just going through JetBrains' server. It seems very secure. But if you need to run it through your own security system, you can have a server that's running the Code With Me software on it as well.
Yeah, we're doing this tomorrow, Eric.
It's very cool.
Yeah,
and the whole thing worked flawlessly without technical hiccups or weird connection issues or anything like that. It was just open the link, it opens up the IDE, and then you can mute your microphone, or you can turn on your webcam, and you can talk to each other through your IDE while you're working on stuff. And I've done this in the past with Eric a couple times, and it can be very difficult, if somebody numbers their lines wrong, or like scrolls too quickly, or compresses on Skype the shared video screen. So I can instantly see this as being a hugely helpful tool, and I'll be definitely pushing it out to the employees at my business, my office, because there's plenty of times where they say, I don't know what's going wrong, show me where it's at, and all I can do is give them a line number to look at.
Or you do the screen
Right.
grab right here. This piece of code right
and
here.
this functionally
sketch up, and you're like pointing. It's like
functionally this is easier than taking a screen grab and pasting it into a Slack channel, because when you start the session, it copies the URL to the clipboard for you. So I mean, it does half the work for you.
It's very responsive too. I mean, I remember with VS Code. VS Code, I'm sure has gotten better. I haven't used VS Code in a while, but it was like a clunky setup. It was like, okay, go here. No. You gotta look for me there and click this. And this is just like Thomas said. I send you a link. I mean, if you have the plugin installed, it launches it, and you're in sync. The voice, the audio, and video were great. I mean, great quality. I'm very happy with it. It might just be that because nobody's using it right now, but
yeah. So that was the exciting thing for me from the the like tiny little sentence that they had about it in the in their monthly recap.
Well, they were probably trying to keep it under the radar, and we just screwed that up.
Yeah,
man,
now
anyway.
everybody knows.
Millions of people are going to download it. Look at this. Look. We got 201 now. Oh wait, did I click? Yeah, oh wait, that's Twitter followers. Wait, go back. 201. Hey. Keeps moving. Go back. Oh. Whatever.
You are terrible at this.
I can't. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not in control of OBS anymore. So we were at 195 last week. I'm like, hey man, wouldn't it be really cool if we can get to 200? We're at 201. 201 followers on YouTube. We're basically up there with Harry Mack, who's at like 1,000,004.
Yeah, we're closing in.
Yeah, basically the same stream.
301 is the important number, but we'll get into that when we get there.
Why?
301 is when YouTube starts changing their
You
analytics.
get redirected and you're
No.
done.
Too many people talking there.
301 is when YouTube changes its analytics system for the channel because it's big enough to deserve more accurate result sets.
Is that still
Really?
the case? Because I remember that was the case back in the day. I don't know if
I
that's
thought it still
true.
was. I thought 301 was still the magic number.
There
I know
was a
1,000 is a magic number as far as like getting like they might do commercials or something on your stream or something like that. Yeah.
back in the day. I think after 300 they stopped the counter. Like it wasn't real time
Right.
anymore.
Oh, I'm sure that's not
But-
the case anymore. Yeah.
No. There were so many weird things way back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, if you're listening, please go subscribe so we can see what happens at 300. We'll share with you on this podcast what happens.
You can unsubscribe after the show, and after we let you know how. Let's just do it.
Click that
It'll be
bell.
fun.
Click
It'll
that bell to
fun
be
for-
notified when we go live.
You don't have to click the bell. It's not that important.
It is
Actually, I guess
important.
it's important.
No, you can't just click it. You have to
Smash
it.
Break that bell.
Smash the bell. Break the bell.
So last week we ended
I feel dirty.
talking about how I hadn't gotten to enumerations, the new RFC for enumerations, and that I needed to do some research into it.
Did you do your homework?
And did you find the phone burner open source enum package?
I did not.
Oh, damn.
But I did do my research, and I can tell you that it's interesting.
Okay.
Uh,
So now this is an RFC, right? This is not something that's been approved
right.
yet.
This is an RFC that looks very likely to be approved. The initial version of this RFC a few years ago didn't have a lot of research behind it. It just had an idea, and it put the idea out there and said, hey, take a look. And it sort of got roundly dumped because it didn't fit with what everyone else thought of enums in other languages. This time around, the RFC has been updated to do a lot of polling of other languages, look at how RFCs are implemented, and try to make that fit into the PHP ecosystem. So it's a much more well thought out thing. And it looks at Swift, Rust, and Kotlin, things like that. So it has a lot of movement behind it in internals, and it looks like it's probably going to pass when it goes up.
So what are enums? What are enumerations?
So this is,
What is
you'd
this?
be most familiar with
confused.
enums in a database, where you've got a column that's stored as an integer, so 0, 1, 2, 3, but it's translated by the client into a string when it's read or written. So you would have
It's also a way of having a very specific result set. So you
Right.
can't have an invalid value.
Yes, so
So if I have it in my database, why would I need it in my
Well-
code, Thomas?
Well,
John?
go ahead, Thomas. You were talking
because
about
the
it.
database version sucks. We're going back a long ways here to some of the first episodes we did together. I hate database enums. They are stupid.
Me too.
And they're very
They're not
difficult to
necessar- they're-
change too, right?
They're not. Yeah, they're not stupid. I mean, they're great. For
No,
what
they're
they
bad
do,
at what they do too.
But
I reference the old episodes, but I'm telling you, if you need to add a new enum to a table, it has to rewrite the entire index.
well, yeah.
And it has to
No, I agree. It's terrible if you want to change them.
or add or remove or any of that stuff.
Yeah,
And
that's all
Yes.
changing.
and it doesn't index things any better. It doesn't help with index storage or speed. And it produces type errors all over the place if you're not absolutely expecting it to be returned as a string, but set as an integer or whatever you're doing. I mean, it is just the wrong place to do the thing it's doing. The right place is in the code. Now, what I do already is I have my enums defined in my models as constants. So if I have a post model, I will have a post status constant that is status open or status accepted 1, status closed 2, status draft 3. And that's how I'll reference status whenever I want to reference it on that model.
That doesn't make it an enum. That specific field is an enum
Right.
at that point. So we wrote an open source library, and I say somebody on the team did, to make basically a enum class. So you can say, I have a post type, and then that would be used by your post, and that could only be one of those 3, 4, 5 statuses.
There is an enum system from Spady. I'm sure you all know.
The foam burner open source one is way better. Never look at Spady stuff. It's just... Actually, I don't know why it was written in house versus using Spady's. I know that when it was being considered, there was a few looked at, and it was like just wrote one instead, and then we open sourced it recently.
Buttery is being
So what's
elitist in
the-
the chat room. He's
What's
telling
Buttery say?
us,
I can
yeah,
handle
he prefers
languages
Rust
that
to
don't have-
PHP. So we will be removing him from the Patreon page.
But where is Rust really used? I mean,
So
anyway, Eric, you're about to say.
I was about to say, enum sound very much like almost like a. What's the difference between an enum and like a state machine? Besides the fact that a state machine seems like it would be able to do more.
that's basically it. Enums are designed for very specific, narrow cases.
Gotcha.
Enums are great.
Okay.
Enums are great when you want to pass around a type, but you don't know what that type is. I want to pass around a post status, whether
Gotcha.
it's open, published, draft, whatever. I can just expect that enum type, and I know it's one of those. And then you can use that in a state machine to say, I can't go from draft to, or I can't go from published to something else.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So
yeah.
this new format replaces the word class when defining an enum with the word enum.
Well, that's weird.
So you would say enum suit, and then you would have your case statements for case hearts, case diamonds, case clubs, case spades. And that is
Really?
the extent of it completely. There's nothing in the case statements that doesn't
Where do you-
return anything. There's no definition other than the fact that it says enum at the beginning instead of class. The way this is used,
So is this handled through the autoloader or something? How's it? How do you implement?
this is handled the same way as a singleton would be handled on a static class. So when you say variable equals suit : hearts, you get a hearts object, a hearts enum object back from the enum. Because it's an enum,
What does the object have?
it's just it's its own type. It's type suit object enum. And
So the beauty is with the enum, you could have two cards, the 5 of diamonds and the 10 of diamonds, two different objects, and you can say, are they of the same type? And yes, they're both diamonds.
so to take it one step further than that, let's say you have the 5 of diamonds and the 10 of diamonds, and you have enums for all the numbers that a card can be, as well as for all the suits. You can say, is the instance of the suit the same? And it will actually triple equal the same because it's the same object. It's the enum object. It's the only instance of this enum object since it's immutable. So
Even though the values are different?
So interestingly, if the values are different, if you're going to compare the values, they won't be the same because they are different enums. They are different instances of different objects. Now, if you had two 5 of diamonds that were different objects, but you wanted to know if they were the same card, then you could compare the suit and the number, and if those two objects were the same on both of your different objects, then you could say it is the same card.
Well, that would be through composition, though. That if you had a suit enum and a number enum, or a value enum, you would have a composition object of a card that had a suit and a value, and then you would have to do the magic to say whether they're the same or not.
In this instance, these are called non-scalar enums, which just means that when you echo out what it is, it just returns, I'm an object of type enum, suit, diamonds. In a scalar enum, you can say, well, this enum evaluates to this value. So instead of case hearts, case diamonds, you would say case hearts equals H, case diamonds equals D, case clubs equals C, etc. In this case, you can have a method in the enum that, when called, gives you back the scalar value for the enum that you're asking it about.
I'm highly annoyed that this isn't in chased order, so I'm already counting this out, and this will not pass.
So you can also have, more descriptive things. If you have the color function defined in your enum suit, in your suit enum, then you can do a match on this, which is the current instance of the enum that you're inspecting, and have it return the color. So it goes from the most simple version, which is just, 6 lines total or 5 lines total for all 4 suits, to a very extended version where it can do comparisons against itself. It can do comparisons against other enums and tell you where it sits in the line. You can do lots of different stuff, but you don't have to. And the way that this is handled is totally serializable, so you can store this in your database all the ways you want to.
That's a lot of talk about enums.
It's weird. I've been using them now for the better part of a year, and it's amazing how granular you can get with them. Like, they're great until you want to do something a little more complex, and you're like, but I want to do this, and then it's like, but then you're breaking that paradigm. You're not doing it quite right, and it's like, but I want to. Let me do it.
Yeah, and
screw you and your enum library.
The nice thing about this implementation is that it supports that functionality of trying to set an enum that isn't defined. So it will throw a type exception, enum not found, or enum doesn't exist, or whatever. So you get real PHP level exceptions for trying to set something to the wrong value.
Until this is accepted and useful, check out the FoamBurner open source.
Yes, that's Spady/enums on GitHub.
Why would you even do that? That is so mean.
What a jackass.
No
FoamBurner open
kidding.
source /enum. You're kicked off.
Is that really it?
I don't. What?
Is that
Yeah.
FoamBurner open?
Yeah.
Put it in the Trello board, man. I'll put that one.
Oh,
in the
I
show
just
notes.
saw that it supports grouped syntax for the case statement, so you can do enum suit, and then case hearts, comma diamonds, comma clubs, comma spades. So you can do it in one line. It's pretty slick.
So why
Yeah.
would you ever not do that?
Yeah, you would always want to do
readability,
that,
I
I
guess.
think. Although it's for readability, if you're
well, it
using
depends.
scalar
If
types,
you're-
it's clear to have individual lines.
Yeah, if you're gonna do that extended, like hearts is H, so that when it stores in the database, it's something different.
It's not like a switch statement, right? You can't do anything in the case, right? You just define the case, and
Right.
that's what it is. Gotcha.
And the way I've
Okay.
seen this used is following the auto load system. So to try and keep things as simple as possible, instead of having an enum that is post status enums, you would have a directory structure that was enums/posts/status, enums/post/status.php would be your enum definition.
They're making fun of your README, John.
Yeah, it is pretty bad.
Let me ask, since we have
So-
a few people watching, go ahead.
Before you go there, this was written for an internal application. We generously made it open source and didn't include a README. So
Generously made it open source. Yeah. This is why people go to Spotty,
no.
John.
do you really want to know why it's open source? Because it was used in the primary application, and I needed it for the little microservice that I use. And I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not just going to copy and paste it. So I made it open source so that I could use it between the two. So I did it selfishly. Have at it.
Let me ask you a
Yes.
question, Tom. And while we have the people watching in chat, I would totally appreciate your feedback. You've heard this conversation before in the past, and I'm going to present it to you again. One of the things John and I have a discussion about a lot is for Diego Dev. I want Diego Dev to have a open source kind of initiative, kind of like Spotty, right? I mean, when you say Spotty, there's a bunch of open source stuff associated with Spotty, right? FoamBurner here has FoamBurner open source. For Diego Dev, I wanted to separate out a little bit of the business commercial company from the open source place, but I wanted to show that there was a relationship there. So we have what I'm currently calling Diego Labs, which is meant to be something much bigger than just open source packages from us, but that's a whole nother story. We've talked to several people about this, including my buddy Oscar over at PHP Architect, who I asked his opinion on it, about having commercial companies hosting open source packages that weren't associated to that commercial company. Like Twilio has open source packages for Twilio services, right? But Twilio doesn't have, or they might, I don't know, but Twilio hosting an open source package that's not related to their service kind of feels weird. And Oscar was kind of like, he was kind of in the same camp I'm in of, yeah, you kind of feels weird to have a corporation or a company behind this open source package if that open source package isn't related to a service that company offers. But John makes a very good point of why would we not use that opportunity to market ourselves? If we're the ones hosting it, if we're the ones managing it, if we're the ones at the initial development of it, why wouldn't we have like Diego Dev open source or something like that?
And to be clear, Spotty isn't just open source. They are a company just like Diego Dev is.
Oh, so now you're on board with Spotty. Now you think it's good. Okay, good to know there, John.
I've been all about
way to go, Lindsay.
Diego Dev.
Way to go, Lindsey Graham.
Hey,
Good
that's
job,
low.
buddy. What's your opinion on this holds true for anybody listening? If you want to type in your chat, what is your thought on that of a company, of a commercial company hosting open source projects that aren't related to services for that open source for that company?
Well,
it's not like an SDK that we are offering to interact with our services. It's just code that was written like, so PhoneBurner's example is we need an enum package. We don't like what's out there for whatever reason.
Or like Diego Labs example, we have a UUID workflow we use. So we created a UUID package that's out there. Diego Labs has open source packages that we host and they're out there. If we were going to use examples, John.
I don't use Laravel, so I don't know about this newfangled Diego Labs UUID Laravel package. Frank, that wasn't very clear. I think it's a great idea.
We're still waiting for feedback from you, Thomas. So what Buttery says, but everybody knows open source is free software. People have to make how.
He was defending me. He was defending me on that. README. You're way behind the times.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah. I say Buttery's on the bubble right now with me. So what do we see? Roger says wouldn't be weird at all. Yeah, Roger's on the bubble. I think if you host it, it would be related. AWS started a repo for Symfony. Really? Symfony components, it would be kind of... Oh, wait. Okay, so if AWS started hosting a repo for a Symfony component, it would be kind of weird. Yeah, well, I agree.
You say that, but, I mean, Facebook open source hack... there's plenty of big companies that have had some internal tool that they've developed and then released for free. I'm sure AWS has released some load balancing stuff that's free. The Red Hat's business model is basically entirely host a free version and sell a paid version.
Red Hat is a completely different scenario, right? They're an open source company.
Zend had the Zend framework, and I think that's where you can see things go bad. But having the transparency of, hey, when Zend goes away, the Zend framework goes with it. It's being supported by people who are paid to support it, or in some relationship or another. So I don't have any problem with having the company name tied to the work, as long as the work is not some arbitrary thing. If you had a Diego Dev GitHub that was hosting software for ebook readers, I'd wonder what the hell you were doing in that market, and are you going to support that? But if you have your enum helpers that you wrote that you really like, that's fine. And people see Diego Devs when they're looking at it and know that, if Diego Dev goes away, if I don't support him, then that package is going to lose its maintainer. Now, there's the other side of the coin. You have totally open source developers who happen to work for a company. You've got PHP Unit. So...
Oh, I can do one better. The one that really weirds me out, and I feel like I'm getting off track. It sounds like a lot of people are siding with John, even in our chat. Roger even says host things you think people would benefit from, more exposure. So Like that is definitely the kind of path, John. And I'm not saying we are severing exposure. I'm giving it a different brand, which is Diego Labs. Instead of Diego Dev, it's Diego Labs. So it would be very clear that there's some sort of partnership there, or there's a connection there. I think even on the GitHub page, it says, it has Diego Dev stuff in there. So I'm not trying to hide the fact that it's us. I'm just trying to kind of have it be, hey, this is our open source. This is our community. Well, so this is the whole thing. This is our community arm of the company. It was going to be, the open source packages we do, the kind of user group stuff we do, STPHP. In my head, I envisioned that rolling into Diego Labs. Diego Labs was supposed to be this community effort of, helping people learn coding, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I still don't agree with most of you, so we'll see. I think John has a very valid point. I mean, why would we give up that marketing? But again, I was going in a different direction, and this is one of the things that weirds me out. And to his credit, he's a freaking genius. He's an absolute genius. I'm gonna say it. Taylor Otwell of Laravel has people contributing to his paid product. So like products like Nova, they're in repos where people can contribute. So people pay for these products. They pay to use these things, and then they contribute back to the code base. It's like, guy's a freaking genius.
I know exactly how to feel about
all
that.
these people who... Well, how do you feel about that?
I don't think that's right.
I agree. I that feels icky to me.
Well,
I mean, that's like...
Can you download it and
No.
use it yourself without going through
No.
his services? Then how are the people contributing?
They
back?
are
I'm
paying for it
confused.
and changing
because
it.
it's PHP code. I mean, it's not obfuscated or anything like that. Once you pay for Nova, you see the code base. You can go in there and modify things. So it's a
Oh, so they're not contributing until they pay for it. So I'm giving him money, and then for the benefit of giving him money, I'm helping him make more money.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's how I interpret it.
How do I get on that bandwagon?
Right? This is my point. It's like, hey, how many of you guys are really interested in parking? Because we can.
But that goes back to long held conversations about, can you sell open source software? And the argument was always no. The argument was always no. If you have open source software, someone's going to take it, post it on GitHub, and everyone else is going to get it for free from now on. But the licensing situation that we have on GitHub now makes it clear this is not free software. This is paid software that you get the source code to. And we don't have the same sort of million places on the internet where you can go search for something and download it as we used to. We have GitHub, GitLabs, GitVault, and maybe a couple others. But they're all strictly adhering to DMCA stuff, so Taylor finds out, hits a takedown notice, and it's gone. So he's succeeding in selling open source, but it's never been problematic. It's never been something people don't like. And this is what very large companies do as well. If you buy the Unreal Engine, you get access to certain parts of the source code so that you can make changes to fit your game's specific needs, and you can submit those back to Unreal, and they'll say thank you, and they'll give you something for it. It's just I think he found people who are willing to do the work because they like the core functionality and want to extend it. And he said, okay, yeah, if you want to give me your work for free, that's fine.
I'm confused on going back to his, because people are talking about in chat that you generally pay for support, not the code. But for those, you don't get the code until you pay, right? for Taylor
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that's great. It's a different model, and Taylor never says it's open source. He doesn't say, "Hey, this is open source software." It's different, right? It's not. It's his.
And
it's
he's
his
free.
business.
He's free to say it's open source. He just can't say it's GPL or Berkeley or whatever open source license. I mean, open source is any time you give the source code away, but it's not OSS. It's not real open source.
Right. I find fascinating. Snipe It. SnipeItApp.com from Snipeyhead, who, I mean, she's done a phenomenal job in her career to build a name for herself. But she has an open source product. I mean, it's a completely open source code base that she's making enough money. She has employees, and she has an employee model that I would love to follow, as far as unlimited pay time off, and she actually pays people to take their vacation time.
But she actually implements the open source model, so she has her software for free, and then you can pay for her services to either implement it or host it. Like, she has a version she'll host for you as well, or if you're trying to implement it yourself and you need help, her team will come in and help you implement. So that's the open source model that Tom was referring to.
And for hers, one of the paid features is priority feature requests, which I'm sure means, send me your code if you want to send it to me, or we'll just upgrade you on the line of features we're working on. This is such a generic looking site, though.
I haven't looked at the site in a while.
You that's the thing, is you've
seen
seen this website a billion times for any software as a service. Yeah. It looks exactly the same as everything.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. I think we've beat that horse dead. I want to beat another horse that's been dead for a while, but I found this article very interesting. So lots come up around the Parler's, Twitter clone service, and
oh my gosh, you guys were talking about that last week, and I had no clue what you were talking about.
Do we have to explain?
Oh, you know now, though, don't you?
Do we have to explain free speech to people, or can we just assume that our listeners are intelligent enough to understand free speech, protected speech, unprotected speech, and corporate speech?
We should probably explain the Parler situation, because not everybody might be following that. But Parler is essentially, but not even essentially, Parler is meant to be a Twitter clone, and Parler's big pitch was.
Yeah,
it's a Facebook clone?
It's a Facebook clone.
Twitter. Either way, it's meant to be another social networking thing that they promise not to censor people. So their whole thing was with Twitter, censoring the president at the time, and then eventually, booting him from their platform. Facebook did a similar thing. A lot of people who agree with the thoughts of the president all started flocking to this other service called Parler, which is basically a right-wing social network system. And we had the conversation a couple times in the past about creating these echo chambers and how dangerous these echo chambers can be, because you're no longer getting multiple sides of an argument. You're just having your opinions amplified to you, and this is this can be where it sounds fun and sounds good. It can be very dangerous, and I think what we've seen here in the U.S. recently is a perfect example of that, of why this is dangerous. Anyways, a lot happened with Parler. Basically, the app got pulled from all the app stores, from Apple and from Google. And then AWS, who was hosting the service, said, "Hey, you can't host on our platform anymore," and basically booted them. So, as far as I know, Parler is like dead in the water. I think that was Parler basically said, "Hey, we're not."
But everyone thinks that. I shouldn't say everyone. Most people think that this was a fly-by-night decision. Like, we don't like what you're saying, we're going to boot you. From everything I've read, there was multiple messages sent to Parler saying, you are violating our terms of service by letting people incite violence or the things that they are saying. You need to change this, otherwise we are going to do
oddly
this.
enough, that actually wasn't the biggest issue. They were playing with the thin line of the law on what protected speech is and isn't. However, they also did not have moderation in a significant enough force to stop anything on the website, which includes pornography and sex trafficking, which are significantly more easily punishable things.
So the reason I brought this up isn't to go into discussion of whether they're right or wrong. I think we all agree they're wrong. We're all happy they're gone. Don't really care about that. The interesting part is that, well, as it turned out, it was discovered that it was a WordPress site. So, we have that PHP relationship there. And when they were getting ready to go down, a hacker or hacktivists decided, hey, you know what? We can download all their data. So they started iterating, and we talk. How often do I talk about this? They were using
incremental IDs,
incremental IDs, and not UUIDs. So this hacker, her name, her Twitter handle is Donk Eby, ENBY,
NB,
Donk Eby,
yeah,
NB, Donk _NB. And she just started iterating through the data. She didn't hack them. She didn't do anything illegal. Everything she accessed was public API, which they had way too much exposed. They had no authentication on their API stuff. And a couple of things were discovered. And this is stuff that we've done in the past as well. So they discovered that they were doing soft deletes. So where the users thought that they were being secure and they were deleting messages, deleting plans, deleting pictures, what they hadn't realized is that Parler had implemented soft deletes, which, if you're not familiar with what a soft delete is in their industry, you basically just put a flag on the item in the database to say, okay, for all intents and purposes, this item's deleted. Don't let the users see this. You do this a lot of times because you want the user the ability to recover stuff, for example. But they had all these soft deletes, so all this data was still there. So she started getting gigabytes and terabytes of data. I think it ended up being like 70 terabytes of data. She didn't do this by herself.
Yeah.
She started farming out.
And that was because she was accessing the originally uploaded content before it had been processed and compressed or resized. So this was actually any video or photo with the metadata attached to it, which included the GeoIP information.
GPS,
yeah,
everything. So she has all of it. Of course, she's sharing it with authorities now, so they're using all this stuff. But it was just like amazing. It's like, oh yeah, had they used UUID, she wouldn't have been able to do that, or it would have been more difficult at very least, And the whole soft delete. So it was funny because I realized right before we launched, one of the changes I made in Argus was that we were doing soft deletes on when somebody defined a job. If they deleted the job, we did a soft delete. I'm like, why are we soft deleting this? It's like it's a simple configuration. If they need it back, they can reconfigure it. And I started looking through the code to see where all we were doing soft deletes, and I made some changes, made them hard. Not that matches anything what Parler's doing, but it did. This article did kind of make me think. It's like, okay, when I do implement soft delete, what are my criteria around doing a soft delete? And should you let the user know? It's like, hey, I won't show you this information anymore. It's deleted, but we're going to hold on to it for a little while. Maybe we do a cleanup of soft deletes.
It really depends on your data. Like, I can see deleting data, but it's still expecting other reports to show historical data. Like,
that's a good point. Good example.
X amount of these things, but the data is no longer there. So if you delete that data, the reports no longer match. It gets
Especially,
it gets tricky.
And to bring up
foreign
event
keys,
sourcing again, everything's a soft delete in event sourcing, because delete is just an event.
That's
Correct.
Right. That's very true. Very true.
But with event sourcing, it was even brought up in Discord. GDPR, or the right to be forgotten, becomes very tricky and possibly problematic. There's been no case study that I know of. There's been nothing that says event sourcing is not the right way to go, because for all intents and purposes, as long as you're replaying all of your events to whatever data store you're using, you're not using that data, but it's still accessible if somebody had access to your event store.
So one of my favorite parts of the story is that they were using an authentication third-party service, but they were using the free trial. And when this third-party service noticed that like Parler was using their free trial to do all of their business, they just said, "Oh no, we're not your provider anymore," and shut them off. And that was one of the ways this giant security hole came into being.
Actually, that's not true. Well, according to the article that will be in the show notes now. So yes, last week that was one of the thoughts of it. But in the article that will be in this week's show notes, a representative from Twilio says, hey, their security team did a complete audit. They had no attack vector based on the decisions that were made through, I think it was Twilio.
This one wasn't Twilio.
Oh, okay. Well, I know, and I don't know if it was Twilio in this article. I'm looking through trying to find it. But yeah, it is Twilio. Yeah, it was Twilio in this article. One of the thoughts was that the authentication service they were using through Twilio was to blame for this hack, and they say, hey, with regards to reports of cybersecurity issues with Parler experience and have been attributed to Twilio, our security team investigated the claims and found no evidence indicating their security issues were related to Twilio or our product. So that's kind of been, I think, busted.
This product was Okta,
So
OKTA. Okta.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was related to that. I do want to move on though before we run too much longer. I wanted to. Well, damn! I just lost what the hell I wanted to talk about. Son of a bitch!
All right. Well, while you're thinking about it, go ahead.
If you're listening to the show, you might hear me mention a lot about show notes. If you subscribe to the podcast, you probably see the show notes in the podcast. But if you watch the video, especially if you watch our live stream, lately I've been going back through and adding the same links to the stream. So if you go back to our YouTube channel, you'll see the links in there. It takes me a day or two. It's after I do the editing and get all the links together for the podcast. I'll go back. Actually, I do YouTube and Twitch now. So if you look at last week's show, all our links are in there as well. If you guys are interested, go ahead, John.
Say the interesting thing about this Parler thing is what it's done to some businesses, where the AWS became a single point of failure for Parler. Obviously, they had lots of single points of failure from AWS to Google to Apple. But in general, businesses start saying, well, shit, if AWS shut them down, why won't they shut me down? And there's a couple of things there. One, the things that were going on Parler, again, they were warned previously. It wasn't like they just shut them down overnight. There was messages to them saying the things you were doing violate our terms of service, either correct it or we're going to shut you down. Second of all, I feel a lot of what they were doing was illegal.
Yes.
Like they were condoning illegal activities. So if you don't have any illegal business, I don't think you have anything to worry about. But it doesn't stop companies from being concerned. And we've had clients come to us saying, are we okay? What do we do? Do we have, what happens if AWS shuts us down? So of course we start going through, we have a disaster recovery plan. Here's what we're going to do. And here's what we can do to show you that it works. And my favorite thing is talking to a company that brings up, it's what, 2 decades old, of something that happened. I don't know if I should share Eric names, but he shared a very high profile shutdown where a company that supported them was like a Fortune
Careful,
500
John.
company that was shut down. And
Eggshells.
he portrayed it as if this Fortune 500 company did nothing wrong. All they did was have this client. But no, that Fortune 500 company was partaking in the illegal activities. That's why they are no longer in business too. So I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go down that road of, if you're not doing anything illegal, you have nothing to worry about, because that's never true.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we kept trying to redirect it to, if Amazon goes away tomorrow, like, not if Amazon gets rid of you. In one of the meetings, I even happened to say, listen, if you go down the road of Parler, your biggest concern is who your next development group is going to be, because we'll drop you too.
Your biggest concern is who your lawyers are.
Yeah. But yeah, we kept trying to, because it is a good practice, especially when you talk to clients who want to protect against that. And it's like, yeah, we can do disaster recovery, we can do real-time mirroring of the database of your S3 storage, but there's going to be a cost incurred for that, and you need to understand that, and start walking them through the plan of, not if Amazon gets rid of you, but if Amazon disappeared tomorrow. Because, I mean, Amazon has been down before, not a significant enough time to warrant having to cut over to another provider. But, there's always that possibility where that may happen. And it wasn't only AWS. We actually pointed out others, areas of concern that we had where, hey, this is really a single point of failure, and this is a single point of failure. So, and clients are very interested in that until you start talking about costs. And then all of a sudden it's like, we'd be okay for like a couple days, I think.
Yeah,
yeah. What I liked about when we had that conversation was, while they kept looking at the development or the technological aspect of it, they also realized there's way more to it from a managerial perspective in their business, not having nothing to do with us. But what happens if their bank drops them, or their legal team drops them, or any other service that they are using says, we're no longer doing business with you? What's the next plan? What's the backup plan?
My fallback has always been, hey, what is Slack worth? What are we worth? Did Slack go down for an entire morning last week? That's the best case scenario. We are.
Well, that was exactly what one of the cases we gave them is, what if your email went away tomorrow? Like, what if Google went away and couldn't give you your email anymore? Do you have backups of the emails you have on Google? It's like, how big of an impact is that to you?
Yeah, and these things that they suck when they go down, like Gishu says, but it happens. And just don't screw around with illegal stuff. Like,
exactly, that's the important takeaway here.
And AWS removing something from their hosting is very different than Facebook muting you for saying something stupid. This is very, very different. And those are all false equivalencies, trying to say that they're the same in any way.
I'm going back, 8 years probably now, when Foambar was they were moving hosting companies, and I was trying to get them to move to AWS. And they had this very concern of what happens if AWS shuts us down, so they opted to buy servers and host them themselves. Yeah, 2 years later, no, we're going to move to the cloud. No, I mean, they had plenty of outages in that time, but it was 2 or 3 years later, and it all of a sudden changed. Nope.
Yeah.
We're moving everything to the cloud and getting rid of the servers.
And I know, Eric, you don't want to get into it too much here, but I have to reiterate here that Parler's biggest violations of terms of service was pornography and sex trafficking, which is clearly identifiable, is clearly against the terms of service, and is a clear reason to end service or support with any of these providers. Apple and Google's stores do not allow it, and they can look at it and say, that's what we don't allow, and just shut you off. So
where they're making it about the right-wing piece, it wasn't that really
it was escalated because of that, because of what happened on Wednesday when someone tried to overthrow the government. But they were already under investigation for serious breaches of moderation duties. And they had been contacted by Apple a week before this Wednesday and told, hey, you need to moderate your content. A significant portion of it is not allowed on our platform. So it really, the calls for violence, the stuff that was picked out in media outlets was not the initial version of a reason why they were being targeted. They were targeted because an unmoderated platform being hosted on Apple's App Store is a really stupid idea. And Apple is under no onus to pay for the hosting and bandwidth and management of an app that fundamentally violates their terms of services. Before we go,
Well, I had something else, but okay.
No, Eric, what else do you have?
all right.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, before we go, Thomas, go ahead. We're not going to go because I got something else. Not a big conversation. It's something I want to put out
Well,
there.
you go first.
Okay, fine. First thing, I'm doing this more and more, and I'm going to do it again today. But we had John and I do another podcast for PHP Architect magazine, and we had a conversation today with Chris Tankersley. He'll be the interview this month. I need to get that edited and get it up to the editor-in-chief Oscar on that. But Chris we had a fantastic time. First thing, if you don't know who Chris is, you want to follow him on Twitter. Great guy, fantastic, and he actually kind of struck a chord with me today, which I'm really starting to evaluate myself because, oddly enough, the position he's in now, he's managing a bunch of different languages. But he had said something that to me in our interview about how PHP really kind of does everything he needs for everything he does. And I'm one of those guys, or I've been saying for years that, coding is like tools, right? There's the right tool for the right job, and I always felt that with coding. So whenever I did like command line scripts and stuff, I would always hack something together in Python, or sometimes I would use other languages. I rarely went to PHP for long-running processes or for just kind of, behind the scenes sort of scripts. And I realized after talking to Chris today, I'm like, why do I do that? It's like PHP is so much better now, and it has so many packages for so many things. It's like, why? I need to stop doing that. So recently I had written a Python script to generate these reports from Stand Up Alice, which I know you love, Thomas, Stand Up Alice. And I use this information to run our company's meetings, our weekly get-togethers with the team. And I had written in Python, and recently Stand Up Alice made some changes to the reports, and I had to go in there and tweak the code. And I noticed when they made those changes, they now have a JSON version of the reports. I'm like, well, shit. I love my CouchDB. I could just grab this JSON version, toss it in CouchDB, and run my reports from there. That would be awesome. So I started looking at, Couch and Python. I'm like, and then after talking to Chris today, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I can do it in PHP. I know how to do it in PHP. I'll do it in PHP. So take it. Look for that to come out here next week or so. Chris Tankersley with over at PHP Architect. If you don't subscribe to that podcast, but more importantly, I want to put it out there on the ether. You guys can make fun of me, but this has been paying off for me so many times. So many people know so many other people, and are so much smarter than I am. It's absolutely insane. So last week I talked specifically about David Ricordan, who is an open source guy who's now on Biden's cabinet or Biden's staff or whatever. He's named the White House Director of Technology. If anybody knows or has any avenue of communicating with David, I've been trying to reach out to him through Facebook, through Twitter. Obviously, he's not responding to me. If anybody can put me in touch with him, I would love to do a community corner interview with him for PHP Architect. I think it would be huge. He has some connections to PHP. He's an open source guy. I just think it would be really cool to talk to him. If anybody out there listening knows of a way to get in touch with him and can hook us up, I would be forever grateful. I'll give you a 45-day free trial to Argus.to, and I might even send you a free lanyard. I would love to talk to this guy. I mean, I don't physically have to talk to him. We can do the interview over email or whatever he wants to do. But I'd love to ask him some questions and do a community corner piece with him. I'm putting it out there. David Ricordan, the new White House Director of Technology. If anybody can put me in touch with him or put him in touch with me, I would totally be indebted to you. Okay. What did you have, Thomas?
I forgot I have two things. One of them is time sensitive, so I'm going to put it out real quick. There is a security update for Laravel 6, 7, and 8, so please make sure that you've updated your security patch levels for your LTS and your latest versions. The bad news, I was outbid on your Christmas present, Eric.
I didn't know
there was a slight bidding war. A 9.4 grade issue of Batman #1. Unfortunately, I got outbid at $2.2 million.
Come on, Thomas. You gotta step it up.
Really?
That's it?
To his credit, he did put in a $2.183 million bid.
Oh,
I did stake the house on it, and someone came in and
Did you look at Patreon? Did you have any money in Patreon? You could have used.
tried to empty it out.
By the way,
It's asking for a 2FA key now, so I can't get in. Maybe that would have been the boost that we needed, but no, unfortunately, this near mint condition issue of Batman #1 just out of my reach at 2.2 million.
Just a little too much. I'm gonna give you a secret, okay? Here's my thing with Batman. If you don't know, I'm a huge Batman fan. You should see all the Batman stuff I have, and I'm very weird about it. So like typically people always buy me Batman things because they know I like Batman, and I will always keep one mint new in box, and then I'll play with whatever the second one is. By the way, a lot's happening in the DC universe with Batman. If you are a fan, a lot of cool things are happening. You guys should catch up. Comic books has always been one of those exceptions. So even when I was a kid, back in middle school, and somebody introduced me to comic book collecting, and I'm like, wait a minute, you can collect comic books, hold on to them, and they'll, get more valuable. I never collected Batman comics because I knew I would never be able to just keep them in a bag set aside.
They get sticky way too fast.
The few Batman comics I have are meant for reading. I could never be a collector of Batman comics for that very reason. I could not read them. I could not look at them. So you did yourself a favor. It would have been a total disaster if you had gotten that from me because I would have totally read it. But thank you for the thought. I do appreciate it. You know, I did send you the little stream deck, so maybe I would have expected maybe a Batman comic. That would have been nice. But you know,
Working
hey,
on it.
whatever. If $2.1 million is just too much for you, okay, fine. I know we're a friendship line.
No, 2.1 wasn't too much.
No, yeah, that was I put that
did
bid
that
in
much.
2.1 million.
It went for 2.2, unfortunately.
Oh.
But I get to keep my liver, so. Thank you to all of our Patreons. You guys make this possible and entertaining. Thank you to everyone on the Discord. You guys are always the best to talk to, and we love interacting with you on the stream and everything. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Smash that like and subscribe. Those buttons. Don't judge us by our thumbnails, apparently.
Oh God!
Nope, not going into that.
We need to wrap it up.
Sneak preview next week. I will be talking about fibers, the RFC for asynchronous behavior in PHP, or synchronous behavior in PHP. So we'll get into that interesting little topic. But for now, I'm Tom Rideout.
I'm Eric Johnson.
That was a great closing. I'm John Congdon.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
I saw John. Yeah, I saw John
music.
fading on me.
What? What do you mean you saw
That's
me
not
fading
the
on
button.
The teasers,
about?
man.
1, 2, 1, 2. Coming off the top, y'all know how we do. Listen, I'ma drop a freestyle you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know, Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with the clever song. Yo, shout the host named Thomas, cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John. You know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles, which cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this, cause the people love me. Shouts out to PHP, the ugly. It's called ugly cause it's not professional, but I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting, I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all know we fill them up with anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I can dig it, my words spray tight. They getting together on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call me the new dude. I spew true lyrics while y'all broadcast on YouTube. So let's get it, you know my lyrics are major. All up in the comments, they got plenty of haters, but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly, we ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out to y'all, peace to the whole squad, man.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was gonna say something. Yeah, let's.
That was
fucking
a
thumbnail.
long. That was a
The
long
soundboard
show.
doesn't loop into the recording. The Zencaster. I
Oh,
gotta figure out how to do
that's
that.
fine.
He killed Zencaster early anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah, but he did the clapping during the show too, so I'll just have to clean that up. No big deal. I forgot why you did that.
Because I was talking amazingly
Yes.
like always.
This is a good show, man. Lots of PHP. I like the PHP talks.
Should
Okay, we get it. You got buttons to push. You understand?
It'll be more impressive when you can get it to loop back into the stream, so that
that's
everything
in the
works.
stream. It's just not in Zencaster.
Well, that's what I mean. Back into your mic, so that.
Oh, hold on one second.
Where's he going?
So
Forgot.
What?
What is it? Hold on one second. I'm gonna
Hey,
walk away. Take care of him.
When you have people breaking into the Capitol building carrying that flag, you probably shouldn't have it behind you.
It's not that flag that they're carrying. That's mocking that flag. But yeah, that kind of plays into the whole thumbnail issue this week.
Oh, really? What was the thumbnail issue? I went to look. I don't know why he said I was fading. All I did was stop to go look at what you guys were trying to talk about.
I put the original thumbnail in Slack, and I got some shit for it on Twitter. Is it? Did I not put it in Slack? Oh shit, maybe I didn't.
Oh, you did. I see it up there. Viva PHP
Oh.
with Thomas in the.
Yeah. So I got some shit for it on Twitter and ended up taking it down.
What happened on Twitter? What did
my
I
goodness.
miss?
Somebody basically. Basically somebody just saying I was being insensitive. Regardless of the fact that every other late night host and comedian were making fun of these clowns, I guess my little YouTube thumbnail was over the top and
Yes.
what's wrong with you? So yeah, I ended up it was interesting because I did come up with some kind of I changed some things. So I won't share with you who said what right now while we're streaming, but somebody said something to me. Well, actually, two people said something to me. One who doesn't even follow me, who never contributes to any of my tweets, never says anything or promotes my tweets or anything, decided to publicly say something to me about this
Well, your
thumbnail.
wife works late.
I'm like,
I mean, she's tired.
They could have DM'd me, I would have, and I did have a couple of people DM me about it too, which I respected. But I'm like, you know what? I'm unfollowing this person. The other person who said something follows me, and I follow them. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever. They didn't say anything too serious, but whatever. I just took it down. So I ended up reaching out to somebody else. I said, hey, listen, I respect your opinion. What are your thoughts here? And they said, it's bad taste. Just take it down. It's too soon. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I took it down. So yeah, that was it.
For future reference, ENBY is the
ENBY?
person.
The hacker or
Donkey
hacker.
NB.
Uh-huh.
It means non-binary NB. So they.
Well, I'm pretty sure her Twitter profile says she/her,
Really?
though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
So I'm actually
her
very
pronoun is
sensitive
she/her.
about
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
There you have it. So yeah.
So maybe it doesn't mean that. Maybe it's just something completely different.
Oh, what a show! Like I said,
That was fun.
like I said, next week I'm gonna do fibers. If you guys want to,
I like the teaser. The teaser you drop. I think that's really cool. We need to do that. We need if we can do that more often. Like, hey, next week we'll talk about.
I've been trying to. Since I started doing it with something that we were talking about, and I just said I don't have enough information. It was something with PHP 8.
Oh, PHP 8. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I forget what the topic was.
One of those.
I've
features.
started trying to commit to learning a new RFC or something like that every week between episodes.
So what is it? PHP
Fibers.
I haven't even heard of this one.
PHP-fibers.com.
No, wiki.php.net/RFC/fibers. And it is a complete RFC for a synchronous and asynchronous scheduler and classes.
I just dropped it in Slack. All right, I think I dropped it in
you
Slack.
did.
This is a RFC, but this is from 2017. Though.
Yes, but it's being discussed for the next version of PHP 8.
All right.
The one the one I'm looking at says
Trying to read up on
the one I'm looking at says 2021, but it's the same. It's fibers plural.
Oh, fibers.
That's the 2021 version.
That's gotcha. Oh yeah, this looks more complete. This is much better.
All right.
Oh yeah.
I'll take
I'll
I'll
read
take a
this.
look at that.
Well, I'll go over it next week. That'll be our PHP lesson. I don't think I left anything on the table except for the online PHP conference, but it doesn't really. It just really didn't tickle me.
Yeah, we pretty cleared our board, man. It was cool.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
John, I'll
doesn't
ping you.
Mac- Yeah, doesn't Matt Cutts work for Google?
Matt,
He Matt Cutts. I know he's done a ton of videos online. I've watched him a lot. He was big into, I think, helping with SEO, not much stuff. He used to be. Okay.
all right.
Good.
Netflix is asking my wife if she's still watching, which means I can hop into Rocket League with you.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks to our Patreons. Thanks to our Discord. And we'll see you guys next week.